So Monsoon is a British drama written and directed by Hong Kong, produced by Tracy O'Riordan, and in this video we're going to tell you what we thought of it. I am delighted, I'm thrilled to be joined by Sean Vickers from Unflopped once again.
Hello everyone, it's really nice to be back.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I apologise to everyone if I look a little bit dewy. Which is a polite way of saying sweaty. I've just cycled home, so I'm a little warm. But other than that, I'm really excited to talk about these movies today.
Excellent. I love that dewy moment just to kick off the movie review today.
A little dewy, just a little bit, I don't sweat.
You perspire.
Just perspire gently in a dewy way. Yeah.
So the movie today then is Monsoon, a British drama directed by Hong Kong, who I have to say, I hope I got the pronunciation right as well. I loved his last film. I think it was the last feature he did, which was called Lilting, which starred Ben Whishaw. You haven't seen that yet, have you?
I haven't. We had a brief chat about it, and when I was looking through their lists of accolades, Lilting certainly was resonating. And I thought to myself, why have I not seen this movie?
It's so good. I saw it at BFI Flair. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. It might actually have been longer. So, yes, the movie stars Henry Golding, who I last saw in Last Christmas. Did you see that movie?
I saw Last Christmas. It was brackets, okay, close brackets.
Oh, you're too kind.
I know, I am very nice. It was okay. But people that know, we know that okay is quite brutal for me. So, yeah.
I think that's the best way to be. I think if you're too scathing, I think people can go off you.
Exactly. And he was great in Crazy Rich Asians. I really loved him in that movie as well. Yeah, I thought he was fab in this movie. Should we talk? I don't know. Your face is telling me something different.
Okay, we'll come on to that. I want to get your opinion first. Parker Sawyers also stars in this, David Tran and Molly Harris. What did you think overall? It's
a really interesting movie in the sense that I could relate to elements of his life. Just to set the scene a little bit, he was born in Vietnam and he left after the reunification, following the American-Vietnamese War. He came to the UK, grew up in the UK, and he's returning to Vietnam after many years with the ashes of his parents. Well, he has his mother's parents, and I think his brother has his father's parents. Ashes, sorry. You're a bit like a voyeur. You're following him through this as he re-explores Saigon and Hanoi and these places which obviously have been incredibly important to him from learning this from his parents, but it's not his home. It's his home, but it's not how he's grown up. He's grown up in the United Kingdom. And so I thought he acted in an incredibly vulnerable way. So for the first 20 minutes, you get a sense where you get a sense that he's entirely vulnerable and slightly lost, and he's tentatively re-exploring Vietnam.
Yeah, it looks like he feels disconnected with the birthplace, and obviously he hasn't been there for so many years. He just kind of has grown apart from it. Yeah, I really got that as well.
And I love that because there was a point of it which was, I've been privileged enough to live in another country, and there's a point where you kind of walk around this place and you think to yourself, oh, this has an importance to me. Either it's my new home or it used to be important, but at times you're just lost. And what you look for are these elements that you can hold on to. And I found the really amazing thing about 20 minutes in is he goes on a date with Lewis. And it's the first time in the movie you see this kind of like tension released from his face. It's the first time in the movie you see him relax. And it's this moment in the movie where he's doing something that is normal to him. So he's on a date with this guy, and they're sat in a bar and they're having a drink and they're just, flirting and, talking about the apps and all that kind of stuff. And you see him relax for the first time. And I think that's really important. We talk a lot about kind of the queer community when we speak, Phil, and I have to say, I can relate. Like when I've lived elsewhere, it's actually the gay bars that make me feel most at home. So I can feel completely lost in the city. But often you walk to a gay bar and they're playing Kylie, you have a beer at the bar, and you're like, oh, it's a little corner of safety. And I think you get some of that with Kit's character when he goes on this date, and then how it all kind of unfolds. Did you get any of that?
I think you're absolutely right, because I think for the first half an hour I felt quite homesick. I felt like I was in his shoes. It's quite bizarre because I think that the way that he's Hong Kong's directed this film as well, there's a lot of space, there's a lot of breathing space for the characters. There's a lot of gaps between their dialogue, which I'm not quite sure worked 100% all the time. It felt a little bit stilted sometimes, but I don't know whether that was a deliberate thing. I think it might have been, because obviously if you're in that position, I think you could you could feel like you don't really want to talk all the time, although you want to feel connected with people. And I think you're right. I think that restaurant scene, as well with the cinematography, did you notice how their faces were kind of pushed to the side almost? A lot of the shots are very wide angle. They're very kind of showing off the landscapes.
And it's interesting because you meet his childhood friend Lee, played by David Tran. It's interesting how their memories are different, because Lee remained in Vietnam with his family, and so he remembers all the stories and the places they used to hang out. And in some ways, Kit's moved away from that, and then it transpires why, with regards to the move to the UK, and kind of not basically trying to move forward after something so horrible that's happened in their lives. And there's an element of that as he kind of comes back into the country, I think, where, you know, he's privileged to things that he wouldn't have been privileged to prior to. He's actually an expat in some ways, and so at one point he goes to one of these expat kind of networking drinks, but he's Vietnamese, and that's where he reconnects with Lewis and whatnot. But I find those things really interesting. You know, there were elements that which I thought were really well done and quite charming, and it made me think. I think the film is really interestingly layered. There's a lot going on, and I'd say personally, having been in a similar situation or living elsewhere, I could really resonate with moments in the movie and how it was projected.
So I think there's a really emotive scene where he's talking, I think it's with his childhood friend in a cafe, and
with
his
Lee,
friend, his friend says, "Why are you bringing your parents back to Vietnam?" Because they wanted to leave Vietnam, and that really hit me hard.
It was so poignant. It was so poignant.
Really poignant.
Yeah, I was going to say that was one of the moments where they sat there, and you know, he's like, "Why have you brought them back? They spent all this time just trying to get away, and they succeeded, and you brought them back." And you just see there's a pondering for Kit. There's like maybe he's right. You know, this is the thing they want to see. I think you're spot on. That moment is so well done, and it hits you right in the right place. You know what I mean, with regards to the energy and how emotive that scene is.
And also, I think Henry Golding really does act with his eyes, and I think that one scene is. That does prove how well he can do it, because you can just see he's gobsmacked by his friend's comment, and he probably thinks, yeah, you're right, I completely agree with you, and you just see his facial expression, and I just think he's great. But sometimes I thought when he spoke, it's almost like he was a different character. I don't know why I thought that. It just felt a little bit jarring, but I don't know whether that's because I've seen Henry Golding in other films where he plays a completely different character. He seemed quite poetic. His dialogue seemed quite poetic, but again, maybe that was the intention of the director.
I'm not sure on what I thought was interesting about the fact that he is, he's part of the queer community. He's going on dates with guys and whatnot. It's almost secondary in a way. He's getting on with his life, and this is part of who he is, and he doesn't reveal it so much when he's in Vietnam. But what's very clear is when he speaks to his family, he's very open, because he had like a video dialogue one day. My initial thing was like, oh my gosh, he's married in the UK. I had all these kind of things going through my head around, is there like an alternative narrative running here? Yeah, he's open about who he is as a person, but it doesn't really translate except with the hookups when he's in Vietnam.
That's interesting, because I guess he's quite mysterious. He's quite a mysterious person. You don't really know much about him. And I still don't know much about him, to be honest, after seeing the film.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because at some point I was thinking, he's really not revealed anything. You find out who he is through Lee, and then through his conversations with Lewis, the guy he kind of is like hooking up with. And you get these snippets, but you're left to piece it together in your mind. So it does make him quite mysterious and quite poetic, because he's just kind of like floating around being quite moody. But I did enjoy it. It's
a snappy 85 minutes. It's not a long film by any means. The pacing is slow, though. A lot of people might have problems with that. I didn't have a problem with that. I quite liked the calm of it, and I quite liked the fact that it felt quite hypnotic. I felt like I was in a bit of a dream.
Yeah. It's there was something else that came to me, which might be interesting for our kind of like any of our queer audiences. There's a book called Backward Glances by an author called, you may know it, by Mark Turner. And he often says in the book, you discover cities by the people you meet in the cities, like your hookups. And there's bits where I felt, Lewis is showing him around this place that he now has no memory of. And it's through him that he's exploring the city. And that's often quite true. I mean, it's a generalization, but often you can explore cities by the people that you meet. And that really resonated with me when I was watching it as well, when he's on the back of the moped and Lewis is showing him around and there's different bars. And I thought to myself, is that story, which is this person who's actually a stranger, he's in a relationship with them for a finite period of time. And but it's real. And this person is showing him parts of Vietnam that he would never see, because in some ways he's a tourist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a bit of a love letter to Vietnam as well. It feels like a video postcard almost. I know there are similarities to, between Kit's life and the director's life, because I think his parents fled South Asia when he was really young, at the same age, 6 or 8. So maybe it's slightly autobiographical as well. I know that the director doesn't want too much emphasis on him, though. I think he'd rather tell the story. He doesn't want it to be about him. But it's interesting.
Yeah. The other thing I think is about Lewis's character. So Lewis in himself is also, it transpires that his father was American, his mother's Vietnamese. They met during the Vietnam War. And so he's also this interesting character saying, I also feel odd in this country because I'm seen as the American, but I'm also Vietnamese and I'm also exploring my own heritage. And I think that's also something that kind of comes through. And actually, in some ways, it probably comes through in a clearer way, in a more succinct way than the story with Kit. Because Kit has an agenda in some way as to why he's in Vietnam, whereas Lewis is just being.
Yeah, true. I didn't really think of that before either, but it makes total sense. What did you think of the cinematography? I mentioned that before, but it was a real highlight for me, particularly the really opening shot where you see the aerial shot of the road and obviously the busy traffic, the motorbikes and the cars just crammed in on that road. And you do wonder, like a place like Vietnam, you wonder how there aren't so many more accidents because it's just chaos. But I love that shot. It's such a great shot. And also the titles don't come in until 15 minutes into the film. You see this big title, Monsoon, the big lettering kind of taking over the screen. And I think I love that because it again proves that, it's a very slow paced film and it doesn't rush into things. But the cinematography I thought was a definite highlight for me. I think it looked beautiful. It
captured a real moment. It captured a real spirit of the country. It was, as you say, at times it was very sparse, very open. The color palette was beautiful, slightly washed out.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was shot in such a beautiful way. And like you're right, it's like a video postcard. He's kind of telling a story, and in a way, the 85 minutes don't whiz by, but it's just right.
So ultimately, you were a big fan of this. What would you give it out of 10?
I liked it. I'm actually going to give it a 7.
Yes, same here.
Great minds, Phil.
I know. We're agreeing again. I've got to say, though, I didn't prefer it to Lilting, like I say, but I think it was a better film for a lot of reasons. I think I enjoyed Lilting more, but this film, I think, looked better. And I think it's obviously got... It has got a lot more plus points, but I think I enjoyed Lilting more.
Well, it's on my list. It's hard for me to comment, but it's definitely on my list, so that will be devoured at some point soon.
Excellent. So it's released on the 25th of September. It is called Monsoon. Don't forget to give this video a like if you have enjoyed it and subscribe for future movie reviews and, of course, coverage of the London Film Festival. Sean, how excited are we about that?
I don't think I can just explain how excited I am. It's coming at us so quickly. The brochure's now out. I'm just super excited. It's going to be brilliant. Brilliant.
You're going to be very dewy about that, aren't you?
I am going to be very dewy about that throughout the whole period. Take from that as you will.
I love it. Good to see you, Sean. We'll be back soon for another review. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye now.